everybody deserves to have free time to just assess or do nothing. It's so incredibly important.
Welcome to Artisan Offices, a podcast that explores, through interviews with working artists, the idea that the work you do for pay supports the work you do for love. Or does it? I'm your host, Rebecca Bird-Grigsby. Having quit my full-time day job in 2017, I'm currently a recovering artist in offices, rebooting my studio practice while trying to figure out my next career move. Each episode of this podcast explores the perspective of an individual artist juggling their creative practice with their day job. In this bonus episode, I check in with Laura Torres, the second artist I interviewed for season 1 of the podcast, who has since left her day job in higher education fundraising in Chicago to focus more time on her circus arts training and all that entails. This bonus episode was recorded in March 2019, about 2 months after she quit her day job. So we talked when did we talk? In December, right? And when did you quit your job?
I quit when I came back from holiday break, early January.
And you had mentioned kind of this when we talked about kind of at the end, these longer term goals and, you know, kind of like not a 5-year plan per se, but you kind of talked about this dream scenario where you would quit your job, not like forever, but have maybe like 6 months where you could, you know, so you're kind of doing that.
I am. And that's probably why I even mentioned it at the time. I was in like my proceedings, so to speak. I was trying to lay down as much of the groundwork as I could to be able to pull something like that off. I mean, things kind of came to a bit of a head at the office. I wasn't particularly happy with the work environment. And I want to say I was there for 6 years, so this wasn't really a frivolous decision by any means. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the longest I've actually ever held a single job. And, I was kind of burnt out. And I wanted to be able to focus on things that I wanted to focus on, namely a creative life. So I just kind of made sure that, I needed to make sure everybody was on board. Like my husband's on board, my family's on board. I have health insurance, especially because I participate in such a high-risk sport. I'm not going to do this without health insurance. All that kind of stuff, making sure I had enough money. So
yeah. So it's funny because I ask everybody kind of toward the end of the interviews, would you quit your day job if you could? And I feel like you and maybe one other person responded without hesitation and honestly that absolutely. And if anybody responds differently, they're lying. But I feel like it's really hard for people to imagine, well, 2 things. A, not needing to make money, outside of their creative practice. And I think secondly, how to fill the time. And one thing that you said that really struck me that when I was listening back was that you wouldn't necessarily, it's not like you're going to be, the nature of what you're doing, I don't know that you could train all day, but that it was to have more time to train, but also to do everything else. And I thought that was really useful. Like I said, I think it makes sense because you can only push your body so far, but I think it's actually a great advice for people working in any, like you said, having a creative life, that I think people imagine, what would I do with 8 hours in my studio? Well, but I was like, wow, it's not necessarily 8 hours in your studio.
I don't think it should be.
So talk about I'm curious how you break up your days. What do you do? What do you do all day, Laura?
I will say this, that I pretty much gave myself February, since it's such a short month and everything, to completely fuck off. I just needed to totally decompress. I didn't want to feel pressured because even now I'm I'm still kind of lightly checking job boards and stuff. And I really just wanted to be no, you don't even have to make more artwork. You need a vacation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you need a bridge.
So I really kind of was So I think for now, I have doubled my training hours, but even that I'm wow, that's quite, I can tell my body is a lot tired. Before I was training maybe around 5 hours a week, and now I'm training 10. And again, that doesn't even necessarily mean that I'm on the tight wire the whole time. Some of that means, I get to take more ballet classes and do more conditioning and that kind of stuff. So I've doubled my hours. So there's 10 hours a week where I'm devoted to movement and being working out and all that shit. And that's been kind of tough on my body. I'm wow, I'm kind of glad I'm able to kind of ramp up with this slowly because I just imagine like suddenly doing like 30 hours a week like a professional athlete. I'd be totally injured by now. So, and honestly, I just I'm not somebody who gets bored really easily. So my day is really like, I enjoy getting 9 hours of sleep. I get enough sleep. That's like number one. Two, I spend a lot of time like so again, like I said, it's about everything else. So now I'm like, oh, I now can make these wanky, healthy meals for myself every day.
Yeah.
And cooking is really time consuming.
It is.
And
grocery shopping and meal planning.
Yeah, the whole thing is like, it's crazy. So I'm like, okay, I get to cook more. I get to eat more healthily. That's one way I fill my time. I also, I haven't like really read books like in years. I'm reading a lot more, and I'm like reading, and everything is kind of in service to my art. So I'm like, I just read this really great ballet technique book, so interesting and useful to my practice. So I'm reading a lot more, which is great. I'm able to just the luxury of being able to go to the library in the middle of the day and take your time and really browse and really think about what you want to learn about or what you want to read is amazing. I'm also very slowly, but it's like a real like commitment of mine. I'm making my way through Marx's Das Kapital. It's a tome. I'm doing it in conjunction with this online lecture series. So it's kind of like I'm taking a class. So I read the homework and then I listen to this dude's lecture. And it's a lot of just like reading, working out, and cooking.
Do you have because you also mentioned like, physical therapy and massages and sort of like the upkeep, I guess, the physical upkeep. Do you feel like, did you kind of plan this with a budget in mind for all of that to make sure you could spend the time? Because I think like a lot of people could probably quit their day job for a while, but they wouldn't have the money. It's like
the
time,
resources.
space. Yeah, it's like time, space, money, pick two. It's like they wouldn't necessarily then have the money to spend the time the way they really want or need to.
I do have a budget. And, here's the thing, though. Eating healthily and getting enough sleep means I need a lot less of that. My body is recovering a lot better. That's the thing about a job is that it's expensive to have one. And it makes you need like accessory services to make up for your lack of time and the fact that you're running yourself really ragged. So when you eliminate that, you're like, oh, I guess I don't have to spend money on that anymore because it's no longer an issue. Like, oh, I guess I don't actually have to own work pants right now. Like, I don't have to worry about it. It's dumb, but I'm like, yeah, but that's like a $50 pair of pants. And I also had made sure that in my budget, I'd be able to accomplish a couple other big, expensive art goals, which was I really wanted to go do this Tightwire retreat immersion at the New England Center for Circus Arts in Vermont. So I'm doing that, and that's expensive. And I also wanted to I've been slowly accumulating the equipment I need to have my own Tightwire. And so I'm finally like getting platforms fabricated, and that's like a big project too. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think what you're describing is kind of, if I'm thinking of speaking to the more maybe traditional or whatever kind of object making audience, like that would be, I would imagine, kind of like a residency, right? Like,
yeah,
you need the dedicated time. Obviously, it costs money, but it's almost like the time is the bigger challenge of like that's something you can do now without having to use up like all your vacation time.
Yeah, because it's also, well, for me too, I like the extra coaching. So it's like, yeah, it's time for me to work on it, but it's also a time for me to get expertise.
I would imagine it's also a time for you to kind of plug into that community a little bit more, right? You're going to have maybe a higher concentration of people that are doing than you do on your day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Those are kind of my two big, that's like my two big art investment as taking up, it's going to take time and money. What I've also really enjoyed now is that weekends are actually much more relaxing for me. Beyond the fact that I don't have to worry about the Monday aspect, which is great. I get to actually relax with my husband on the weekend because, I've already accomplished all the chores and stuff during the week. And usually, really, for the past 10 years, every single weekend is just packed with dumb crap that you have to do. That was the other thing I wanted to point out too, that I feel like I have more time for is seeing more art, like going to a museum, going to a show. That was also something that was very difficult for me to squeeze in time for.
Definitely.
And I think it's so important to expose yourself. And even just dumb stuff like I finally catching up on, movies that I've been wanting to see or TV shows and being able to go to a show without feeling like it's crazy, but like, even though it was like pleasurable to go see a show, in my mind, I was always like, okay, this is a lot of time. We still have to do this. It's just much nicer to be able to be like, yeah, I can go to see that show. I can go to the conservatory and look at plants.
Right. And you don't have to like figure out how to cram in everything that you're missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
totally.
I think for an artist, inspiration is really important and you can get it. And when you're stuck in the same place for too long, like you don't get to expose yourself enough. So I do see this as like part of the process. It seems like nothing to some people, but I'm kind of like, no, I've lived in Chicago for 6 years and I've literally never been to the Garfield Conservatory. And having like looked at some wacky plants, that was actually really important. It is meaningful.
So I'm curious, how do you, one of the questions that I ask everybody at the beginning is how do you describe yourself when people ask what you do? Because I feel like as creative people, we already have to kind of give this potentially wonky answer, depending on who's asking it and depending on how important it is to you to include that you're an artist or whatever. So now that you don't have, and I think some people do just fall back on it just gets so tedious to try to explain it that you're like, I'm in nonprofit fundraising, and you just let it rest at that, unless it's somebody that you think is going to understand everything else. Right. So now that you don't have that fallback answer, have you been in a situation where somebody has asked you?
No one has asked me what I do yet. I'll have to let you know. But honestly, I will say when you started with that question, I immediately felt anxious.
Well, yeah, and your response is so great. In fact, it's like you're like, and now by occupation, do you mean? And it's like that, and it's like exactly like it just gets to it really gets to the core of what I think creative people have to deal with, of answering this. And it's not just creative people. I think the fact that we are so obsessed with the answer to that question and that we answer it based on how we make money is interesting. And so I feel like
what I'm going to say.
I was going to say, I feel like you're in a position where you're going to potentially really see that you're already.
I'm in between jobs.
Right. That's what I was saying. I'm like, I'm kind of between things. And I'm like, all right, I've been between things for like over a year and a half. I don't know if I can say that anymore.
Yeah. And, I wanted to kind of, this is sort of an addendum to that feeling. I also wanted to add, even though I just describe things that I'm doing and things that I feel like are really justified with my time, I also feel highly anxious and guilty about it all the time. So when the idea of like someone asking me, oh, what do you do? Like, I just want to like, nothing. I do nothing. I do nothing. I'm wasting my life away. I feel like I should be way more productive. I should have like a finished act by now. I should have been finished with my costumes. Like there definitely a level of productivity that I feel like I should have regarding the art stuff before I'm allowed to be like, oh, I do typewriter stuff or whatever, and the guilt is terrible. It's been hard for me to enjoy this gift, even though I feel like I've planned it, everyone's on board, but every day I wake up and don't go to work, I do feel guilty.
I feel like my conversation with you was the only one that really directly gets into like the state of the world right now, and like kind of how capitalism fits into all of this. And I know it's like, I feel like I was a little bit hesitant, like how much communism do we want to talk about? But like, and I think it's relevant. Again, this goes back to like broader ideas around like workism and not just creative people, but I feel like we are kind of, I don't know, like the canary in the coal mine maybe or something, where it's like, because I feel like we're faced with it a little bit more directly because we're trying to, if you're working full time or even a part-time job or a couple hustling, like 2 part-time jobs, you're having to kind of fit in.
Yeah, you don't really fit, so you kind of feel the boundaries a lot more.
Yeah. So I don't know if I guess I don't have a specific question other than just,
No, capitalism, super relevant. I mean, come on, it's relevant. People are talking about socialism now.
like you did this, you planned for this, and you know, like probably deep in your core that it's like the right thing for you to do. But like that kind of capitalist structure we live in, and everybody being so like fanatic about working, 40 plus hours a week, it works on even the most militant people, where you're like, I feel like I can't say what I do because I don't make money from it, or and I'm wondering if it sounds like, I would guess maybe you're kind of more in the thick of that right now because you don't have a job.
Yeah. Well, there's always this idea of labor is value, which is actually a very Marxist idea. And I realized, I was thinking about this a lot, and I was like, well, one of the reasons I feel guilty is that I actually do like to feel useful. Most of my career has been very much focused, very client focused, trying to get people information that will help them. So I do like to feel helpful and useful to people. And so to wake up and just be helpful and useful to myself is very odd in a way. And it's definitely one of the reasons I am taking some time to read Capital, to kind of crystallize all these thoughts I've been having around this conversation. Ultimately, all I can really think right now is that, like, we're just so alienated. I think we all like to feel useful. And when I think about work, to me, the irony is that we actually have a shit ton of work to do. We have like real serious problems in this world.
Right. Yeah. but so many bullshit jobs.
Yeah. But way too many bullshit jobs. And everyone's like freaking out, like, oh no, the bullshit jobs are gone. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, we're actually kind of in an all hands on deck situation, really.
Right. We all need to quit our jobs so that we can actually get the actual work done that needs to be done.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just kind of, it's nuts. And that's kind of the alienation. Like, we're just so like removed from anything that is meaningful. And so there's just so much wheel spinning and like bizarre feelings around all of that.
I follow a lot of people that are advocates of basic living income. And I feel like most of the people that I know who are really advocating for this are insanely busy. I volunteer at my kids' school. I volunteer at the animal shelter. I do all these. I work in all these capacities where there is not enough funding, and I don't make money doing it because I can do that right now but yeah, that's the weird thing where I feel like there are people that are like against it because it's like this completely incorrect idea that we just want a handout and so that we can not work. It's like, no, it's so that we can actually do the things that really need to be done instead of sitting in front of a computer, sending emails back and forth. Like, not to knock that. I mean, hey, if that's what you do and that works for you, and
no, I think I like your point though about, because I go back and forth on the basic income thing. I like the idea though that if we had basic income, we'd actually be able to get more done in a weird way. Not that we need to like glamorize productivity, but we might be able to get stuff that actually needs to get done. Yeah, it frees us from the bullshit job and allows us to realign our priorities where we are happier and do feel more useful to people. Because, it sounds corny, but I actually really think most people want to help people. I think a lot of us are just so tied up in the day-to-day that isn't really structured for any of that to happen. If you did have, more of a safety net or something, you could be able to take more risks and you can, help people. Like you said, you volunteer at the animal shelter or whatever. All of that, like, there are so many things I think a lot of people would like to do.
So, like, do you have a plan? Are you kind of taking it 1 month at a time? I
have a couple creative goals. So before I go back to work, hopefully, they don't have to be finished, but they have to be very well on their way. So creative goal number one is I have a mini tight wire, like a smaller practice wire. And I've always wanted to develop an app just for that wire because one of the bummers about tight wire though is the rigging is so intense that it's hard to find venues that can do it. can tolerate the rigging and has the capability to rig a tight wire. So, you don't get a ton of performing opportunities. And I'm like, this wire is actually really elegant when it comes all apart. It's like you can travel with it much more easily. So I was like, I need to develop an app just for that. Even though it's kind of it's like the silly me wire, but I was like, I need to develop an app just for that I can like showcase in smaller venues, and like that would be like a good experience for me and really take advantage of what it is versus like wishing it was like a big regular rigged wire. I just finished a goal. I wanted to audit every single move I know how to do and film it and just like see what it looks like.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, almost like a catalog of what you can do.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, there's no like, that was really just for myself, just because I don't film myself enough. And, your coaches will tell you something, but to see yourself actually do it. And not just that, I've been like kind of really, because I'm not I don't have any traditional movement background. My goals are very different. I kind of was like, I need to see what all of this looks like. I'm much more of a visual arts person. Mm-hmm. So for me, just because a move feels like I can do it, I'm like, yeah, but what does it look like? When I'm making the shape, does it have like a certain quality that I enjoy or, that I think is going to have a use for me later? Or is this like, it was also a way for me to kind of judge, like, every time I do this move, even though it's incredibly difficult, it doesn't look like anything is happening. Also, I started working with a duo partner, so we're like trying to get something off the ground. And the really big thing for me is getting comfortable with the professional height, which is working at 6 feet. Yeah. And so for that, I finally and I'm getting my own platform made to start that. And I have a bunch of million others. We'll see how any of this shakes out. But I do have a lot of creative goals that I'm hoping will be well on their way before I have to go back to work.
So are you sticking to kind of like what we talked about the first time, like this kind of 6-month period is kind of what you're looking at?
Yeah, yes and no. I'm kind of also thinking I might try to get a part-time job to extend that. Because now I'm kind of seeing, now that I'm witnessing my own little rituals and what I'm, how do I spend the time? I'm like, okay, reasonably, like, could I work a little bit here and there? And then, then that would I'd be able to make this extend a little longer.
So it's kind of like that. I think we talked about Jerry Saltz, and that kind of like kind of scam yourself into working only 3 days a week so that you have, or like shorter days. I've kind of thought of that too. Like if I could only work for 5 or 6 hours a day, that would give me more time in the morning and evening to do do a workout in the morning and make a healthy dinner at night and then have the energy to go to a show in the evening or
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's an interesting exercise, even just kind of dealing with that in and of itself. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like not working can be a very jarring experience, but I think it does, like, even if you don't meet all of your creative goals, I feel like it's a very, like you already touched on, kind of like resetting some of your priorities. And like, now there are things maybe that you want to maintain that are just part of your daily ritual, not necessarily, but that they will, they're helping you be healthier. And I don't know. I'm a big advocate for like,
thank you.
Financially.
When I did quit my job, I told everybody, because the regular person to just quit your job is like kind of horrifying. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to like do all this like career development education, which I have not done. But also I just was like, kind of wanted to be like, it's me, not you. Like, I don't like take it. And
I totally
this is my chance to really learn how to do more data analysis because I want to, I don't know. It's just like, and that's another thing I kind of feel guilty about. It's like silly. I'm like, maybe I should be doing I guess I could be taking an online course instead of reading Das Kapital and taking that online course. I am doing continuing education. It's just not like in my field. I don't know how to tell you that I really just want to spend all my time making strange costumes.
Yeah.
And but I will say this. Actually, before you called, I did spend like an hour just looking at the want ads. Because you should at least have your ears open just in case. Yeah. And my biggest thing was like, I want my next job. I actually, talking about like, I want to feel useful. And I want people to appreciate that what I'm bringing to the table. And I've been in the nonprofit sector for so long that I might be ready to try to do something, even if it had a pay cut, like maybe something a little more grassroots, less big institution, because that's usually where I've been working. There's a lot of interesting grassroots organizations always happening that are really doing on the groundwork. You see it happening before your very eyes. So you don't feel so disconnected from the work. Because I've been thinking, the truth is I have a very strong skill set now, something very useful to most nonprofit development offices. And I'm like, well, it'd be nice to actually parlay this into something I think is a little more radical. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. No,
I'm trying not to get worried because I'm a worrier too. So I feel guilty. I'm like, oh man, I do need to get a job eventually. Like this isn't forever.
Yeah, but I will say, like, just because I feel the same way, and I'm kind of like, I think it took me a while to kind of identify the projects that I wanted to finish, and now I kind of like, this is obviously a big one to have this done and like in the can, as they say. And then there's a couple more, and then I feel like I'll be kind of like it sounds like you have this too. You have some that you want to finish, and then some that you want to at least be like well underway, so that you can. Because I feel like if you go back to work too soon, you might it can take over, and then you're like, you kind of have to have that reset again.
I actually feel like in artwork, the planning and research phase is the longest. And it takes
so much.
The most time consuming. Once you actually know what to make, or you're in the throes of making it, once you've made decisions about where you want to go, it's that decision making. So if you're going to make a quilt, this is just an example, you have to do, deciding what colors, the patterns, the thread, all of that is like your biggest part. Once you're actually just making the quilt, it's like putting together a kit. You're just doing it. Like you can make creative decisions on the fly, but a lot of the creative decision making happens before the art has even been made, I think. And at least that's a lot of how I work. I'm loving this time and I'm hating it. It's more because I don't know what the future holds. It's just like a fear of the future. And so if I knew, like, girl, in 6 months you're going to have a shitty job you hate and it's going to be fine, then I'd be able to relax a lot more and enjoy it for what it is. But it's so hard.
Yeah, it is.
It's just really challenging to be a worker.
I think that striving for a creative life is really useful. And I don't know. I mean, I would like to live in a world where that's not so hard to do.
It'd be nice if it didn't have to be so tied up with money.
Every chance I can to validate somebody pursuing a creative life is good. Well, I think was there anything else you wanted to?
I know. I'm thinking, what am I going to say about my post-job life? Just wish me luck.
Yeah. Good luck. You have my total moral support.
I'd love to.
You can find more information about Laura at artisanoffices.com. To listen to our original interview, look for episode 2 wherever you listen to the podcast. Artisan Offices is produced and edited by me, Rebecca Bird Grigsby. Music is provided by Mr. Neat Beats. Show notes and additional episodes can be found at artisanoffices.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing wherever you get your podcasts and leave the show a rating or review. Thank you so much for listening.
When I do it, it feels more like I'm a pony. When she does it, she looks more like a spider. What does that mean? And what am I going? And if I want to look like more of a spider to the audience, what am I going to have to do?